As we begin our time together this morning, let us prepare our hearts and our minds. Know this, you are just where you should be. In this sacred space, where everyday matters cannot penetrate. Time stretches out and embraces us, but we are unperturbed. Come, there is much to explore together. Jack Kerouac wrote, all human beings are also dreaming beings. Dreaming ties all mankind together. We light this flaming chalice in recognition of our dreaming life. We truly are beings tied to one another through our dreams. Please stand in body or in spirit as you're able, as we sing hymn number 346, Come Sing a Song With Me in the Gray Hymnal. Hold your tongue, said the queen, turning purple. I won't, said Alice. Off with her head, the queen shouted at the top of her voice. Nobody moved. Who cares for you, said Alice. She had grown to her full size by this time. You're nothing but a pack of cards. At this, the whole pack rose up into the air and came flying down upon her. She gave a little scream, half of fright and half of anger, and tired to beat them off, and found herself lying on the bank with her head in the lap of her sister, who was gently brushing away some dead leaves that had fluttered down from the trees upon her face. Wake up, Alice, dear, said her sister. Why, what a long sleep you've had. So Alice got up and ran off, thinking while she ran, as well she might, what a wonderful dream it had been. And then she woke up. My creative writing professor in college told me that the "it was all a dream" ending was the single greatest betrayal a writer could make against a reader, so I'm getting it out of the way. I was inspired by the topic this month as I reflected on my own spiritual journey. Some of my grandest spiritual lessons and life nudges have come in the form of dreams. Of course, mine is not a unique experience. Since the first sleep images from the first humans, dreams have served as a vehicle to further our spiritual journey. They've given us insights into our world and the furthest recesses of our hearts and minds. They've fascinated us, scared us, propelled us into living. All this is evidenced by the vast array of documented dreams in most, if not all, major religious movements. Of course, we also find dreams recorded in books, film, poetry, paintings, plays, folklore, and of course, music, passed down from generation to generation. It's not surprising to link creativity to dreams, as dreams are pure creativity. They're works of art presented individually through images and language that speaks intimately through us. One of my favorite semi-recent films is Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio. If you remember in the movie, thieves raid dreams to incubate a single thought that has endless waking repercussions. Like this plot, our dreams can become the precipitating event of a life-changing emotional transformation. But typically, the influence of our dreams is much quieter and less obvious than an instantaneous epiphany. As a child, I had many recurrent dreams. One followed me through college even. I won't share the whole dream, but let's just say it involved the giant orange furry monster from Looney Tunes cartoons, which, as it happens, is quite a bit more terrifying in a nightmare than on TV. The other dream I dreamt over and over throughout my father's illness was when I was in the 8th and 9th year. In my dream, I found a pathway leading through the acres of woods in our backyard. It was lined by singing flowers, ushering me on my way like Oz's munchkins. I was on a quest to find the cure for cancer, which was always several days' journey into the forest. The cure was from Beauty and the Beast, if you can remember it, a perfect red rose enveloped in a glass case, just waiting for me to bring back to my ailing father. Each time I found it, I was thrilled. And each time I journeyed back through the woods and made it past our cherry tree, I was devastated to find I hadn't made it in time. Despite the ending always being the same, my dream gave me purpose. It made me feel powerful, as though even as a child, I could do something that might be able to save my father's life. The dream stopped occurring when he died, and afterwards, I've only dreamt of him twice in the past 21 years. Most of us are familiar with the dream work done by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud and his intended successor, Carl Jung. Each man gave tremendous scholarly weight to the study of dream images and themes. Freud devoted major portions of his career to the study of dreams, ending with one of his most widely read books, and aptly entitled The Interpretation of Dreams. In it, he wrote, "Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious." Like our unconscious, his book was ever-changing, having been revised 8 times in his lifetime. But it all boiled down to wish fulfillment for Freud. Our deepest secrets, hopes, and wishes, each desire we knowingly or unknowingly suppress during our waking life, is fulfilled at night in our dreams, so says Freud. Jung veered us into a more mystical lens when researching dreams. Using more religious language than Freud would have ever approved of, Jung writes, "God speaks chiefly through our dreams and visions." You see, where Freud viewed dreams as the windows into our animalistic, instinctual, and most basic selves, Jung believed dreams were the windows into our higher selves, our spiritual selves. Jung, taking it a bit further, developed the theory of the collective unconscious, which is a source we're able to tap into when we dream that speaks to us through symbols and archetypes universally understood by humankind. Through these archetypes, Jung believed we learned to better understand ourselves, and that we received wisdom and guidance from a higher power. Both Freud and Jung realized that dreams had become largely dismissed over time, and our Western civilization became more modernized, and as dreaming had become associated with superstition and therefore witchcraft around the 16th century in newly modern England. Dreaming also became a source of contention as the burgeoning European missionary field fought for conversion among the indigenous tribes of the southern continents. In the notebooks from 16th and 17th century Spanish Catholics who colonized the Quechua people of the Andes, was present-day Peru, wrote of their struggle to control and convert the Quechua by dismissing their practice of keeping and interpreting dreams. One missionary wrote of his interaction with the Quechua, telling them, "Don't be keeping dreams. Dreams are just worthless and not to be kept." Dreaming was an integral part of the Quechua. To take it away was to seemingly take away their power and safety, as they felt their dreams served as premonitions. Colonizers systematically destroyed the dream culture in an attempt to rebuild it with Christian teachings. Kelly Bulkley, who I brought 3 of his books that I used for this sermon, perhaps the foremost dream scholar alive today, tells us of another culture where dreaming was, and in some of the more remote areas, has remained fundamental to everyday life. The Australian Aboriginal understanding of Jukurpa, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, translated as dreaming or dream time, is described as a realm outside ordinary physical time and space, yet vibrantly present in every feature of the world: land and sea, plants and animals, sun and stars. It's the beginning of all that is, the creative labor of the ancestors striding the land and singing its nature into being. The ancestors still live in Jukurpa, and humans have the ability to connect with them through their personal dreaming. It's the source of all existence, and for Bulkley, it represents a 40,000-year-old spiritual insight about the creative powers of dreaming. For these indigenous tribes, dreams are not viewed as needing interpretation, as they're considered real experiences meant to be lived out in our actions. Similarly, the long-disputed dream habits of the Malaysian Senoi tribe show that members are taught from childhood to respect the dream as an integral part of life. They speak openly of their dreams, formally recalling them with one another every morning as a way to seek meaning and guidance from the nightly dream events. An example of the continuity of waking and dreaming for the Senoi would be that should they be wronged by a member of their tribe in the dreams, they confront the member in waking life and expect that person to make amends. I'm sure we can all remember a time in our lives where we've dreamt that a friend or significant other has wounded us in our dream, only to wake up and realize it isn't as easy as we thought it was to let go of the hurt. Perhaps your partner has responded like mine, saying, "But I didn't actually do anything to apologize for." Both times I saw my father in my dreams following his death, I was experiencing a significantly stressful and transformative moment in my life. As someone who speaks about grief on a day-to-day basis, I'm used to recalling the wave-like ride survivors experience years after the passing of their loved ones. I understand that all major transitions tend to bring in a new tide of grief, but it still fascinates me how these dreams have pinpointed the most important grief transitions I've experienced in such an obvious way. My freshman year of college, I was several states away from home and learning about myself in ways I have never imagined, or I couldn't have imagined only years before. I dreamt of my father for the first time since his death during my first semester away. In my dream, we were on a cruise ship for my wedding, and following the ceremony, I found myself alone in the bottom of the ship when my father, dressed handsomely in a tux, caught my eye in the doorway. I was confused and elated, but all he had time to tell me was, "I'm sorry," and "goodbye," before I noticed the water rising around my feet and I knew he would be lost to me again. This time I woke up feeling angry, feeling certain I had been mistaken about his death. I couldn't shake the feeling of being abandoned and lost again. Where was he when I needed him? Part adult and still part child, entering into the big world for the first time. This dream brought to the surface many emotions I thought I'd moved past, but ultimately realized I needed to work through more deeply. Like the Arsenault theorized, my dreams needed to be taken seriously enough to be acted upon in my waking life. Alternately, we find we often bring our emotions from waking life into our dream life. Think of that famous "I'm being chased" dream we might experience when we had a test to prepare for, or a mortgage overdue, or some task we've been putting off until it finally catches up with us. The anxiety we feel from not completing the task creates the dream of being chased. J. Allen Hobson, director of the Laboratory of Neurophysiology at Harvard Medical School, suggests that most of psychoanalysis work on dream theory has been wrong all along. According to his research, the emotion of the dream creates the dream landscape. He states, "Dream emotion is a primary shaper of plots, rather than a reaction to them." In other words, if we're feeling anxious, our dreams create a landscape that make anxiety an appropriate feeling. This explains the bizarre nature of our structure of dreams. At times we flip through different scenes and characters until they create the perfect scene for the emotion. I bring this up to point out there's a circular progression from waking life to dreams, back to waking life. This gives credence to the Arsenault tribe's understanding of dreams simply being another form of reality. This means that acquiring wisdom and insight through our dreams is supported through modern neurophysiology. As in my dream, the power of the dream is assigned by the dreamer. We can designate dreams as being worthy of remembrance, or we can simply release them and forget. As I mentioned earlier, the world's religions have a strong history of oniromancy, or the process of divination through dreams. Again, it is those who retell the dream who choose whether or not to place meaning upon it. This process assigns power to the dreamer. In Buddhism, the most famous dream is that of the Buddha's mother. Tradition has it that the Buddha's mother, Maya, dreamt of a white elephant who, while holding a lotus blossom, gently struck the right side of her stomach on the night of the Buddha's conception. This is one example of a traditional conception story for powerful leaders of religious movements. Dreams were so revered to have been conceived without the pomp and circumstance of a premonitory dream, well, it would be a disappointment. So dreams like Queen Maya's were typically used to help solidify the importance and mystery of a leader's birth. Similarly, the conception of Jesus was explained to Joseph in a dream. In the book of Matthew, we read that an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." It's quite obvious the author of this particular gospel found it necessary for the audience, through Joseph, to hear of the Immaculate Conception from someone other than Mary herself. The only way to do this was through the act of dreaming, which gave it credibility. Using this example, we see that Western religious traditions utilize dreaming as a means to direct communication with God, just as psychoanalysts see dreaming as communicating that quiet inner voice of ourselves. The last dream I had at my father's was during finals of my last year in divinity school. In my dream, I was walking through a house party and opened the door to a bedroom. I happened upon him just waking up from sleep, wrapped in white sheets. He was in his 20s again, tan and handsome. Without words, I knelt beside his bed, laying my hands on his chest. and we wept together, tears of joy. This time we had all the time to say everything we'd ever wanted to say to one another, adult to adult. When we parted, it was with a blissful peace. I awoke sitting straight up, tears streaming down my smiling face. It had been 18 years since my father died, and I hadn't consciously realized until that moment that I was seeking closure with him. That small, still voice that Freud and Jung refer to was speaking freely to me in my dreams. One could spend a full, happy day analyzing their dreams, but truly I have found that the most important aspect of any dream is how it makes you feel when you wake up. Recall your most powerful dream. Why has it remained with you? Did it disturb you, motivate you, leave you feeling loved, wanted, sad, or peaceful? Does the feeling change after a long time away from the dream? For me, I feel grateful for my dreams. What a potent gift I've been given. Two things I was most devastated about in my loss: my father not being at my wedding and not being able to say goodbye to him. These gifts had come to me when I was feeling most defenseless, stressed out, and emotionally exhausted. That seems appropriate. After all, dreams require a certain vulnerability in order to be fully expressed. It's in the act of sleeping that we experience dreams, and sleep is the most vulnerable states humans can find themselves in. We give up the power we strive so hard to maintain during waking life while sleeping, and seemingly while we dream as well. Hinduism's holy text, the Upanishads, categorizes 4 states of being: waking, dreaming, deep dreamless sleep, and self-realization. I personally appreciate this categorization as it emphasizes dreaming as its own state of being, lending it as much legitimacy as the waking state of being. But what is most intriguing about this categorization is the order. One might interpret it to mean that the only way to self-realization is by leaving our waking life to enter into our dreams. The true reality, as Hindus would explain, is the final stage of consciousness, or self-realization. Waking life is seen to be no more real than dreaming life, only longer, though each informs and helps to create self-realization. Now, this is in line with what each psychoanalyst, each scientist, each holy text, and ancient culture spoken of here today has stressed since the beginning. We live whole, complete, and evolving lives when we integrate our dreams into our waking life, and vice versa. So go home, grab your favorite blankie, and take that cat nap you've been putting off. If anyone gives you grief, you can say it's in the name of science, or spiritual exploration, or self-realization. Happy napping.